Hey, I'm Mark Clem, your host for Meet the Members of the National Ski Patrol, and like we always say, all season long. Hey, we're in year 5 here. I know it's gone by really quick, and we're heading into Meet the Members of the National Ski Patrol special episode COVID-19 8. We've been doing this for a few weeks now, maybe like 3 weeks or so, as we understand the fight against the COVID-19, but more importantly, when the ski area is just kind of shut down abruptly a little over 8 weeks ago. I started hearing stories how ski patrollers, and it's not a surprise to me whatsoever, said, well, we just done quit. We may not be able to ski and sneak into the backcountry as we tried to do, and we got shut down for that. But ski patrollers said, I'm going to pick up the torch and we're going to fight the fight. And typically this time of year, ski patrollers do remain active when the training starts, getting involved in providing EMS care for local events like bike races and running races and things like that. But this year, the ski patrollers took a little step higher and decided, I can do something in the fight to fight the COVID-19 virus. And today we're with Ben Usatch. Now, Ben Usatch, we've been chatting here off before the show a little bit. We crossed paths a little bit. He was a 35-year veteran ski patroller at Elk Mountain in northern Pennsylvania, right up the road from me here. And then he transferred to Eldora Ski Patrol. It's on the Front Range in Colorado, and he's patrolling there a few years. But in his real life, he's the medical director for an emergency department in Highlands Ranch, Colorado. And he's an EMS physician. But as patrollers do, that wasn't good enough for Ben, so he had to pick up another job and fight this fight as all they out there doing. And Ben is dove hard into the COVID-19 virus and trying to fix things up and do his part. And Ben, we welcome to the show. And how's the weather in Colorado? Is it snowing out there?
As I look outside, it's about 70 degrees and sunny, just absolutely magnificent. Mountains behind me.
Well, if you follow the weather, not necessarily in the central Pennsylvania weather, but up in Vermont, no, it's been snowing for a few days. But we can't utilize that. But Ben, talk about your fight here, your role in the fight, going from, the medical director to getting down and just helping patients, dealing with patient one-on-one care and things like that.
Sure. So this is just an unprecedented time, different for physicians, different for ER physicians. I've certainly never seen anything like it in my career. So my job as a medical director to start this was I had a bunch of administrative responsibilities. I needed to step up, do the disaster preparedness, do the surge planning that so many of my colleagues needed to do. And then just first and foremost, I am a care provider. And I've been on the front lines taking care of patients and COVID patients pretty much since day one of this virus.
Now talk about, and I've asked this question to a couple other nurses and stuff who are actually getting their hands messy and being protective, but talk about the patient care and how everything has changed in the world of EMS care and medical care in terms of protecting yourself, because we had to upgrade that, and how more serious, now we should have been doing this the way it is all the time, but how more serious and more aware we're going to be, not only as in the medical care, but in his EMS as patrollers are in the future.
So it's funny, being involved as a patroller, paramedic, still a paramedic, the term universal precautions has taken just a whole new meaning. There's never been a time where there's been a greater threat to our person when we're rendering the care that we do. This virus is droplet. This virus is airborne in that way. And it's very important that we just don't go to the gloves and the eye protection that we're used to, but we absolutely are in need of masks or some type of respiratory protection to keep us safe from this virus. We gleaned onto this rather quickly in the emergency room setting and in the hospital setting. But what's really interesting to me as an instructor and as a pre-hospital guy is how we've been able to take this to the streets and looking ahead, touch wood, to a great ski season ahead, how we're going to be able to take this to the slopes. Because I truly believe that our practice as ski patrollers has changed and is going to change.
Now, I remember, I've been a patroller for a long time. You've been a patroller a long time, and we go through the continuing education at the refreshers, and we practice putting on the gloves and taking off the gloves and all the different, putting your hands in the pudding, and the guy who gets the pudding on your hand gets to buy the beer at the end. But I think this year and then in the following years, we're not going to joke about that as much. If you don't take them on and off properly, it's going to be like, well, we have to do it right. Would you agree to that?
I would. I still think we need people to buy the beer, just maybe because they're taking their mask off wrong. But absolutely, it's taken on a whole new face. Until there's a vaccine, until there's a definitive cure or treatment for this, I know there's a lot of things being tested. We really are in jeopardy. And our actions as patrollers need to be much more deliberate than they've ever been before with our approach to the patient.
Talk about, Dr. Ben, your job specifically. Talk about how your world has changed from kind of being, the man in charge or the surgeon or the physician to come in and do your job and walk out. Now you're doing, it sounds like, bits and pieces of everything. Patient care, you're helping to develop policies, new policies or upgrade policies, and then being disaster ready. So that's got to be a little more, it sounds like a little more full plate than what you've done in the past.
I've always had some administrative responsibilities. I've always done some protocol development, not only for EMS, but for my local ski patrols. But what's different now is not only to be prepared for the larger volumes. I mean, I'm in Colorado. I've not lived the Seattle or the New York scenario, but there's no doubt about it. We need to be prepared for it. And it gives me some pause and some concern that people may be letting their guard down somewhat. And at least in my mind, come the fall is when things are really going to rev up. I think there's a true threat to all of us, and we're going to need to be prepared for the surge to come. And a big part of that is not just the physical resources to take care of the patients, the beds, the PPE, and all the supplies that are inherent in this, but more significantly, the mindset that you need to approach these patients, you need to appropriately triage them, evaluate them for potential virus, move them to a part of the emergency department where it's safe to care for them so they're somewhat isolated from those that are still coming in with the strokes, the heart attacks, the appendicitis, and give them the great care that they deserve.
I mean, you're right. You're not in the New York situation, the hardest hit situation, or Seattle, but you are not far from Vail, which got hit pretty good in the early times when, it was a tourist area. So I'm sure you've seen enough of what you want to see and deal with as well.
Absolutely. Vail and Summit County as a whole was an interesting study. Aspen had their cases too. Cohorts of people were coming in from all over the country and unintentionally, of course, bringing in COVID with them.
Now, what kind of policies, Dr. Ben, have you had to either upgrade or implement or just go in a different direction than what we've done in the past?
So we're talking from a pre-hospital point of view or from the emergency department?
Pre-hospital.
So I would say from a pre-hospital point of view, there is nothing more critical than protection of the crew members. And unfortunately, whether you're talking about the back of an ambulance or most of our patrol rooms, they can be quite the incubator. And this being a droplet disease, it tends to live on surfaces of our suits, surfaces of the desktops and the beds that we work on. We need to be very careful. So job one is approaching the patient as safely as we possibly can, having the right protection. It's not just eye protection and gloves, but having at least a mask or up to an N95 to
Right.
be able to approach these patients. After our patient contacts, we need to very aggressively decon the areas they were working in. Fortunately, this is a fat-covered kind of non-hardy virus, so it dies at the face of Clorox and soapy water. Clorox strongly preferred. So it's not hard to decon. You just need to be extremely methodical and careful about the areas that you're working on.
It's funny you said that because Chris Toda, who was a ski patroller at Magic Mountain and another mountain up in New England, when this first started, he kind of laughed and said, look at all these folks out. They don't even know how to take the gloves on, put the gloves off. And he saw people just possibly contaminating themselves. And so he put on a series of videos on how to wear the mask, when to wear the mask, how to use the PPEs that we have in place. And it sounds like that's the same track you're on right now, is not only do we have them, how do we use them to our benefit?
There is no better forum to train and prepare than patrol refreshers. Now, I would suggest that we probably need to sort of change the scope of our refreshers, because I think that we lead by examples. We are professionals. We need to exercise learning in a socially distancing sort of way. And if that means we do online learning coupled with less participants, moving it over 2 or 3 days, so be it. But I think as important as putting on that collar or doing the bleeding control is everything that we need to do to learn to protect ourselves, to appropriately don and doff the equipment that we have so that we are not infecting ourselves and infecting those around us when we're caring for patients and skiers.
Now, not only in the patrol world, but in the whole scheme of things, they talk about this disaster, this medical pandemic being unprecedented and all that. And then you hear stories of 1918 and all that. How much good are we getting out of this? How much good are we getting out of a horrible situation in terms of being prepared for a disaster like this in the future?
Well, it's my profound hope that we are going to learn from there were a lot of educational opportunities here, a lot of growth opportunities. And my profound hope is that we're going to adequately fund our pandemic efforts, that we're going to continue the viral and the bacterial research, which is so important, in the hands of pharma, that we work hard with vaccine development. From a public health point of view, I know there's still, in 2020, a lot of controversy that surrounds vaccines. I happen to be a very firm believer in the fact that they save lives. As I use my telescope and I look down towards the fall and I sense flu on top of coronavirus coming down on top of me, I just have the most profound wish that everybody gets that flu vaccine. I'm an optimist. I feel in my heart we're going to have a coronavirus by the end of this year, maybe December or January. Everybody, when adequately tested, steps up, accepts that vaccine, and I think we're all going to get on the other side of this. But there needs to be efforts in the future, because I feel that this is not the last pandemic I'm going to see during my lifetime, and I'm more than sure it's not going to be the last pandemic my children are going to see.
That's the truth laid right out there, whether we want to hear it or not. And we appreciate you being pretty candid. Doc, when's the last time you got to ski? Did you ski on the last weekend?
You know what? I did get a last weekend. I have the good fortune. My family has a little place close to Beaver Creek.
Oh, wow.
So I did get some great turns in the weekend before they closed. And we still have snow-covered mountains out here. So my eye is still like drifting to the west, just waiting for the opening of a great season.
So you're telling me you tore up Birds of Prey? You just destroyed it?
I would say I did the best I could on the Birds of Prey. No talent's challenge for me this year, but my eye is definitely on Birds of Prey for next year, for sure.
Well, the good thing for me, I skied on the last weekend, but I was on the way to Smuggler's Notch for the Eastern Division YAP event, and it got pulled the plug. Matter of fact, it was pretty funny. My wife said, "Are you really going?" I'm like, "Yeah, it'll be fine. It's Vermont. Nothing's gonna happen up there." So I left. It was, I don't know, a half an hour later, I came back. She goes, "That was a quick trip." I said, "Yeah, they got an email down the half hour down the road." So I turned around, but
At least you weren't in line.
Go ahead.
At least you weren't in line.
Yeah, there you go. Just talk about, has your patroller experience, the experience you've gotten in patrolling over the vast years, how has that helped you at all into the situation you're doing now?
There's no doubt. We are the definition of austere medicine with the ski patrol, and basically doing more with less. And if there's anything I've taken from the ski patrol, it's that mindset and being able to bring it into the emergency department. And that's what we've needed to do during this virus, whether it's in our preparation or in our patient care. We are doing more with less and have to be ridiculously dynamic and adaptable to changing circumstances. And that to me is just the quintessential essence of the ski patrol.
Well, that's like a testimonial for the National Ski Patrol. And I don't know, maybe you're going to be the next poster child. We may have to put that on a poster. But we really appreciate you hanging out with us today. And folks out there, if it's going to be tough to contact your mountain if you want to become a member of the National Ski Patrol. We always try to promote that in this time. But hey, hang in there. We're going to be up and ready. If you just don't know where to turn and you want to make a call now and you're like, I just want to get it started, you can definitely contact the national office out in Lakewood, Colorado. Now, they're shut down. But I was informed by Beckett Stokes, the director of marketing, and Megan Mozinski, our executive director, that if you email or you make a phone call, they're all working from home and they're all getting the messages, and you have a concern or want to find out where to take the next step, they will gladly steer you in the right direction. So even though we're shut down, we're not shut down. And Doc, if you had a word of encouragement if somebody is sitting on the sofa and saying, as a patroller now, and saying, is there anything that I can do? I don't work in an ambulance company. I'm not in a hospital. I'm not a medical situation. All I know is OEC. Anything we can do?
Absolutely. We are professionals. We are the poster child for leading the example for what we should be doing as socially responsible professionals. Promote social distancing, protect loved ones, protect particularly the at-risk loved ones, the people with diabetes, people that are older age, and give appropriate distance and counsel everybody around us, right? I've got 21, 23, 25-year-old daughters convinced they're invincible. Well, it's my job as a parent and as a medical professional to educate them and their friends that, you know what, times have changed. And I give this same task to all of my colleagues in National Ski Patrol. Go out there, educate the risks and the dangers involved with this, and just set a good example for the community.
You heard it there, folks. I couldn't have said it any better myself. We're getting it from Dr. Ben Usatch, who is out in Colorado, Eastern Division Ski Patrol at one point now. I think a Rocky Mountain Division. Is that what you're in?
Rocky Mountain, been with Eldora for the last year. Just a great group of folks.
And we really appreciate you, Doc, for sitting in with us and giving us your view and where you see the virus and how it affects not only the world, but how us members of the National Ski Patrol can do our part to help fight the fight. Again, I'm Mark Clem, your host for Meet the Members of the National Ski Patrol. And like I always say, the bandwagon has a seat for you in the back because we're coming to a mountain near you. Unfortunately, I can't put you in the bandwagon because we got to practice social distancing. But I tell you what, in November, when the snow flies and I'm heading up north to Sugar Bush or Sugarloaf or Sunny River or Smugglers, there'll be a seat for you in the back. So hang tight, guys. And again, I'm Mark Clem, your host for Meet the Members of the National Ski Patrol, special episode COVID-19, special episode number 8. Hey, we'll see you down the road.